Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Undrunken Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm excited you're joining me today. The Undrunken Podcast is where we celebrate the lives and stories of those living life without alcohol. New episodes drop once a month on the 7th, or like the last couple of episodes, when I feel like it. Please be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today, my niece Gillian joins me, and she's an incredible go-getter of only 25 years old, sharing about the changing attitudes in her generation about alcohol. We're going to chat about all things love and our personal experiences being single, dating, and relationships, all without alcohol. We explore the challenges of an alcohol-free lifestyle, particularly in friend or romantic relationships, and we dive into self-love, setting boundaries, and the impact of alcohol on mental health and personal growth. So let's jump in. Let's start with who you are, which is like super exciting, right? You're my niece, and I love you to death. You're one of my absolute favorite humans, and you're super special, like to be on my show because you're in your 20s and you've made the decision to not have alcohol in your life.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I get emotional a lot easier since I quit drinking. I'm getting like teary-eyed just talking about it.
All the time. Yeah.
You made the decision to give up alcohol, and like I remember you sending me this super cute video of you like dumping out like all like the what you call them, the stranded warriors or something like that, just like the leftovers. And I just thought it was so cool and so special, and I've really wanted to have you on for a long time because I get to talk about this a little bit, but not really, because most of the people that I talk to are in like, their 30s, 40s, even older. But there's a movement happening with your generation, and there are articles out there that talk about your generation is kicking alcohol to the curb in monumental numbers, and that is so exciting. So, if you don't mind, just like quick reason why you gave up alcohol.
Yeah. I really just gave up alcohol because I don't see myself needing it. Like I go to a social setting and you know what? If I'm around other people that are not my generation or like a little just slightly above, they'll be like, "What, are you pregnant?" Um, and so I get that a lot, especially me being my age. But yeah, I just don't feel like there's a need for it. And I don't know, like I one of my family members, he um was just telling me like I don't ever like I hope that you never ever rely on a substance to be happy. And that's always stuck with me is I'm never going to rely on a substance to make me happy. And so that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. So for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, that was kind of like always in the back of my mind. Like, I'm never going to rely on a substance. I might drink one or two drinks, but I'm never going to put myself in a situation where I am out of control or I don't know what's going on or I can't pivot and move and shift and do all those things because it's just not who I am. It's not what I like to do. But I think for other people, it's more of just like, yeah, like drinking, like, okay, it's not exciting. It's not, you don't have to drink to go do fun things. I feel like the generation now is a lot more, they're, I don't know, I think they like to smoke a little bit more than they like to drink. I think that's definitely a trend. But the whole drinking thing, there's a lot of people my age that don't and don't partake in those things. So it's really interesting. But that from my perspective, it's a lot more of like my upbringing and that kind of stuff that made me just not really want to drink. Like I'll have a drink maybe every couple months, but like it's not like I would say it's not as much as the like older generation would drink in their 20s.
All right,
So
we can just like you don't have to dance around it at all. Like your dad and I's generation were
there
tying
you
one
go.
on big time. Like that
Yes.
was, and I thought we had fun because we do stupid shit and we have a lot of fun and we're
Yeah.
like we're adventurers, but like you like go out dancing and like all these things that I really think that I associated with drinking,
Mhm.
right? Like you do
Yeah.
a lot of things that I think are typically, at least in the older generation, associated with drinking. Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah. So how much when you quit drinking or like really like I want like you said, I know you drink every once in a while. Like recently
Mhm.
we saw each other and you told me like you had a drink or something and you just felt like hell afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, how much of your social life, if at all, changed with that?
I feel like the friends that I used to hang out with definitely shifted. I just lost my AirPod, but it's fine. But I feel like the my changes in friend groups definitely shifted. But it wasn't anything. Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, yeah, my change of friend groups definitely shifted a little bit. But I would say nothing's really changed from my social life, but I've never been a heavy drinker to begin with. So when I do go out in social settings and like there's people drinking all around me, I've found myself either one getting like a Coke and everyone just doesn't question it, you know, because it's in a glass and
Yeah.
you think it's Coke and whiskey, right? Or two, I just like I will get water and people will ask me if I'm pregnant. So I feel like those are the two things that I run into a lot. But then when I do drink, um, and I do choose to partake in a glass of wine or whatever it is, it's people don't take it as I don't know, people don't take it like wrongly if I or like they don't get offended if I'm drinking or if I'm not drinking. At least with my friend group now. With my like friend group, I would say in my early 20s, definitely they would be like, well, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why aren't you drinking? And but yeah, and then as I just got more and more comfortable with just saying like, I just it's not really something that I choose to put in my body. It's not something that I'm really interested in. And then, yeah, and that's kind of where it goes. But yeah,
Well, selfishly, like, I mean, I love it because I've learned so much about it and I just think it's so bad. And I'm so excited and happy and proud that
yeah,
you have, eliminated, reduced like all the putting that in your body because it is so bad. And,
yeah.
you know, it just, yes. So how did it change dating? Because here we are, we're chatting. So here, this is it's kind of like bring everybody up to speed, right? You're my
Yeah.
niece and you're 25
Hmm.
and um, we've both experienced relationships, dating, and singleness without drinking. And I think it's
Yeah.
really kind of some cool perspectives that we'll be able to share. And my hope is to release this on Valentine's Day because, why not? Why not? Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
Um,
talk to me about dating and alcohol.
yeah. Um, yeah, man, that's a hard one because I I found when I stopped drinking, or when I don't drink, and I go on a date, um, I have a lot more of a chance to find love than if I am drinking. Because if I'm drinking, then I'm, to me, I'm a lot more like outgoing. I'm more of a touchy person when I'm drinking, and I am not a touchy person. Like I don't really like cuddling. I'll give you a hug, but that's like the extent of my touching. But when I'm drinking, I just I will hug you. Like, I want to dance with you. I want to be all like fun. And that's just not who I am. And I don't think that's a good um like representation. There we go. That's a hard word. To somebody that I'm meeting and I'm trying to get to know and I'm trying to be in a relationship with. It's just not a good look, especially on that first and second date and third date where you're just getting to know each other. And I mean, what are you portraying to that person? That you're this outgoing, bubbly person that likes to touch and feel all the time? Because that's not who I am. That's not me. So then when they get the flip side of the sober Gillian, then like they're offended that I'm not as touchy feely. So I personally like going on dates that are you're just sober and you're just having fun and you're enjoying each other's company and getting to know each other without that alcohol being part of the equation. So
I think what I hear you say is allowed your nervous system a chance to relax,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Without that superficial protection being lifted
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've seen you with your current like boo, and you are a little touchy feely, and so, but I can tell you feel safe,
Yeah.
right? Like I can tell you feel seen, right? For
Mm-hmm.
who you really are,
Yeah.
not this is, yeah. So what was, I mean, like, I don't know, hindsight, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
alcohol was so much like a part of so many like relationship woes for me.
Yeah.
Uh, and a big epiphany that I had. So I was in a long-term relationship when I quit drinking. We
Mm-hmm.
both quit drinking. And that was great. Ultimately, that didn't work out, right? Which I think not drinking got me to the point where I realized that we wanted different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone out on a few dates since.
Yeah.
But I will say that up until now, everyone, including my last long-term relationship, started with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. I can't think of one that alcohol wasn't a part of the onset.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, like my relationship now, I'm so blessed. Just because like we don't him and I like we'll drink like I said we went to a birthday party a while ago and we both had drinks um and but him and I kind of we met in such a special way and we connected in such a special way because we were sober that like when we drink it's not like awkward or weird um and being around each other's like alter egos like his he has a name for his drunk alter ego from back in the day when he used to drink all the time is Jenkins and mine's Tatiana. I really like to dance. And so Tatiana and Jenkins when they meet, it's not awkward. Um because we have that relationship behind the alcohol.
I'm just laughing because my alter ego, Lola.
I love it. Lola. That's the best. Um yeah, I just I think it's just the best because him and I like have picked up so many different things that I've definitely not done with anybody else. Like we went and played pickleball. We've like over New Year's we ate grapes underneath the table. And then we after that we like made Play-Doh figurines. And sober, like just fun, just pure fun. And I find when um you're you're drinking you're just not loving as much as you would be and it's so fun to be with somebody who I connect so well with but then also if we do decide to drink ever then we have that relationship and that connection again behind the alcohol that um we're not fighting, we're not at each other's necks with the alcohol because that's another thing too is like who you choose to be with um it, it's really important that the other person like some people are aggressive drunk and it's I think it's good to have a relationship behind the alcohol but then if you are choosing to drink knowing who that person is who Jenkins is and who Tatiana is and who Lola is um I think it's important to make that decision of, oh yeah, I want to be with them drinking or not. I want to be with them sober or not. Um, and so yeah, so I think that's my perspective. But yeah, what about yours? I want to hear
Well,
yours.
I'm curious, like, did you know when you met him that not drinking was an important value to share?
Yes. And I was completely like honest with him, and I was just like, it's not really my thing. Like maybe I'll have a drink or two, but it's just not my thing. And I don't want to drink. I have no interest in drinking. And he just took that and ran. Like he ran in the right direction, the best way. He yeah, he doesn't like shame me for it. He doesn't ask questions. He just is. And if I want to drink, he supports me. If I don't, he supports me. And I think um, finding somebody who is okay with either is just the best because he just
Yeah.
supports me in every avenue. But had I not had that conversation with him, and just been open and honest in the very beginning, I think our relationship would be a lot different. Um, just because I think he likes to drink a little more than I like to drink.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think having that relationship or talk up front was really, really helpful and just being open and honest with him. Um, but yeah.
So does he still like to drink, or he just doesn't as much because he's around you and he just doesn't miss it?
He just doesn't do it as much. He just doesn't miss it. I can count on my fingers like a handful of times since we've been together that we've drank, or that he's drank, um, and yeah, it's never
I'm gonna
like
make a
we.
comment about it because it keeps happening. You're so cute. You got little ears like me, and those damn
My
AirPods
little ears,
they
they
do
don't like
not
to
stay.
stay. They do not stay, and I'm trying my hardest over here, but they do not like to stay. So if I'm doing this, no, listens because I want to hear.
You asked about me. It's interesting. I didn't realize until recently. So, I a friend of mine introduced me to somebody, right? And they didn't know a lot about them, right?
Mhm.
And I was really enjoying chatting with them, and we had a date, and and I told them, that I host a podcast about not drinking, right?
Mhm.
Um, and they mentioned that they like to drink a little bit, like here and there,
Mhm.
like, um, and I didn't think it bothered me, but something bothered me.
Yeah.
And long story short, like, I think they like alcohol more than they let on, right?
Mhm.
And whether they did or not, like, this is just like me kind of like going, wow, like, this is the things that they told me, and being present enough without alcohol to really evaluate those things and take those things for more than just surface level. I just was like, you know what? Like, I think this is something I want to share with somebody. And so I
Mhm.
really spent some time, and uh yeah, it was hard because I liked the guy for everything else, but that is not, it's a non-negotiable for me. Like, I
Yeah.
want to share this with somebody. And I will say, like, I've been single for a while now, and my friends think that I have such unrealistic, like, ideals about what I'm going to find in
Mhm.
someone. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm not settling, like, at
Yeah.
all. And I didn't think that it was a thing. I don't mind being around people that drink. I don't
Mhm.
like being around drunk people.
Yeah.
And so I didn't I didn't know. And then once it was like on the table, I think it's very important to me, right? Like, I think it's Catholics want to marry Catholics, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to date somebody that don't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
share that. It's a big part of my life. It's changed my life, and I think my love life is probably, when you look at like your wheel of life, I definitely think companionship was the most affected in
Mhm.
my life as far as like what changed for not drinking. um I know what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
unwaveringly, unabashedly. I have, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it.
Yeah. How has first dates for you been like? Because that it was really different for me, going on a first date and not just going and having a drink, right? Or you have a drink together. I've never been one to like take a shot before a date, but um, going on a first date and not having that drink or that crutch, of having the drink when you get there and then letting yourself breathe a little bit, to finally hopefully have some courage to talk about other things other than the weather outside. Um, how has that changed for you?
Uh, so there's a few things I want to unpack really quick. Like you mentioned the whole like somebody taking a shot before a drink, right?
Mhm.
Or a shot before a date, right? For that
Yes.
courage. And I've never thought about that. But
Mhm.
in that moment you said that and so many things flashed before my eyes. Not necessarily dates, but like I'm gonna sing karaoke and take a shot.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna do a
Mhm.
speech, take a shot, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like I what I do in my life now, I think a lot of people would need to drink to do it.
Yeah.
I'm in, I'm constantly performing and in front of people, you know, being a guide or doing a race announcement or this. Um, but dating, yeah. So let's see. I think harder than the first date is meeting somebody.
Mhm.
So, like online dating, I thought like what a great idea, right? Like, um, it feels like there's kind of two categories, maybe people who are just there to hook up, and then people who are like interviewing you and like real intense about it. And there's like not a lot of medium, like, hey, let's just chat for a while. Like, I am not one to run. I even drinking, I usually knew somebody for a while before I go on a date.
Mhm.
Um, but first dates, like, yeah, like, what do you do? Right? Like, for me, like, I'm so active. I want somebody who can keep up. So let's go on a hike.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's good, maybe we take that right turn and we make the hike longer,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. I still like to go out and do really fun shit, but it's like meeting people is the harder part for
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. I would agree. So personally, funny story. How I met my boyfriend was actually at a drinking event. I was teaching line dancing. I wasn't drinking, but I was teaching line dancing. And my dance mom set me up. I have a dance studio, and my dance moms were just like, you have to meet this guy. And I was like, no, not my thing. I don't want to. I'm good. Thank you though. I'm good. And then they're like, no, you have to, you have to. They invited me to a bonfire with him there, and I was like, I'm not going. Didn't go. And then they were just like, well, you know what? We're gonna invite him to one of your line dancing things. And so they invited him to my line dancing thing and completely drinking social setting. Um, and he was nursing his beer, and like everyone was making fun of him and like talking shit that he's nursing his beer, like not drinking it, just holding it and like taking a few sips every now and then. And I was like, I kind of like this guy. I do the same thing because I don't really like drinking. And so I think that was my first, but that was my first time ever meeting him, was there. And um, just thinking, like, oh my gosh, like this guy and I could possibly connect. He's not like belligerent drunk. Like if he was belligerent drunk, I would never, like, I would want nothing to do with him. But I met him in such a pure way and in a way that we connected, not through alcohol, was just so amazing. But finding somebody who is on the same page as alcohol as you is really hard. And then going forward, to going into that dating era, is hard too when you don't like get that first initial like moment in the beginning to like meet each other, and yeah, or like we met very organically, and that was super awesome, but that's really hard to find, especially with everyone being on dating apps and then not willing to go on those like meetups that they like plan sober. Because you're on a dating app and for me, like in my experience, like you set up this time and to go meet each other like on this dating app, and then you meet each other and he's drunk and you're not, and it's not fun. It's not fun for anybody, and you don't connect, and you just get to talk with this someone who's just not themselves. Like and they're not there. um it's hard to find and meet somebody organically, especially now. I feel like for everybody across the board, like young or old.
I was really surprised pleasantly that um, I have met people who don't drink. And now I realize like that's a kind of a pre-requirement to even going on a date.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, didn't know that.
I love that. I love that for you. Yeah, I think it's interesting when you don't drink and you go on dates, how much of a connection you find with somebody, if they don't drink either. Um, so I think that definitely changed, from my experience. But um, yeah, I like I said, I think when I stopped drinking, especially on dates and that kind of stuff, the more I found love and success. Um, so that's just my my experience. But I with my new relationship, it's just fun and easy, and I don't need alcohol to have a good time. And we I feel like we're more creative and in a new way, um to find different things. Like the other night we made pancake art. So fun. So fun.
That's
The
amazing.
best time. The best time. Or we will like I said, we did like little figurines like in Play-Doh, and we like it was the best time. But you find different ways to be creative with dates when you're not relying on that date to be drinking. So
I like that.
I think that's the fun in dating sober, is that you get to be a little more creative, and you get to channel a different part of your brain, than you are when you're drinking. So um, yeah, that's
It used to be such a big part of even the fun dates. Like I think I talked with Johnny about this when I interviewed him, right?
mm,
Like socializing and drinking was so integrated, even in like mountain biking and hiking.
yeah,
It would be like cracking a beer at the summit, like, right? And I don't know,
yeah.
no different in dating, like just gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people you know don't drink?
Um, oh, that's a great question.
Is it a lot, a few, most?
It's honestly a few. I found that a lot of my friends now do drink. They like will have card game nights and there's drinking, or um we will they go to a birthday party and there's drinking or whatnot. But I feel like there's a lot less, in my generation, there's a lot less judgment of not drinking alcohol. I think there's still drinking, and I think there's still a lot of people who do drink. Um, I think there's definitely been a decline in how many people drink, but the people that I surround myself with, don't necessarily not drink. They're just okay with and don't question people who don't drink. And I think that's very important to me, and who I surround myself with and who I choose to have in my life. Um, so I don't know a whole lot of people who don't drink other than you, um, and really that's it. It's like you and a few other people, and my lovely boyfriend who he like drinks, but he's on the same page I am with alcohol that it's just not something that we choose to partake in all the time, or we choose to partake in really ever. And so I really truly don't know that many people. I've been on some very shitty shitty dates with
Oh,
people who
spill the tea, girl. Spill the tea. Let's talk about the dark side of dating.
yeah,
I'm going to use rabbit ear sober, right? When you
yeah,
don't drink and you're dating,
uh-huh.
and they do talk about the dark, fun, ugly side. And I say
Oh
fun.
my gosh.
This is a warning, people.
I so I dated a musician, and he was in a band and also just played gigs, and very sweet man. But he, oh man, just when he would drink, it was just so unattractive. And I was like, I can't. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't like anything. He just relied on a drink so often that I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be around somebody who is relying on a drink to play a show. Like when I go to a dance thing, like I feel like I'm a musician myself. I tap dance. That's like kind of like a music, like a
Yeah.
instrument, right? Yeah. When I'm going and doing what I love and performing, I'm not drinking beforehand because I want to experience it. I want to be my best self and put my best foot forward and like be in that moment. And when you're robbing yourself of feeling that way because of alcohol, it's just so unattractive to me. So I think that's why that relationship did not continue forward, because I was just like, I can't watch you do something you love, but then be completely just drunk when you're doing it. It's just, it, it just turns me away so fast.
Well, it's
Um,
such a disconnect, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it really creates a separation from the moment. Uh,
exactly. Like I admired that he was on stage and brave enough to do that, but I did not admire the fact that it took alcohol to do that.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, I've been on another date too where I'm gonna laugh. My boyfriend's in the other room. He's definitely listening, but he knows all these stories. But I went river rafting with this guy who one of my dance moms set me up with him. And we I was drinking, he was not. And for whatever reason, the water just made him really sick and he threw up on me. Um, so because alcohol, and I was like, oh man, like I think this is going to be a recurring thing because you're just drinking so much, and I don't really want to be thrown up on all the
Yeah.
time, because you can't handle your alcohol. um, so I just, it's it's not. I just find so much more success with going on a date sober than I do drinking. And then when you're on that date and somebody else is drinking and you're sober, how unattractive it is to watch them do that to themselves. Um,
Well,
is
and the shift, right? The
yes,
shift.
it's the shift. It's a complete shift because then you're going from somebody who you admire to somebody who is not coherent and not like just completely different person. Like I said, like your alter ego, like you're going from like my boyfriend Tyler, he goes from Tyler to Jenkins, and it's just which he's never bad, or he's never
I
I
just
love
picture,
Jenkins.
I was gonna say, I picture Jenkins being like hijinks, right?
He's
Like
just,
just playful
yeah,
and maybe a little feisty,
yeah,
but
and
like
he's
super
great.
playful. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, and I love both sides of him. But
What
I
do
adore the side of sober so much more.
I mean, you said like if he had been drinking a lot when you first met him, you would not have really given him
A chance,
attention.
no.
Yeah. Well, okay, so have you ever like gone out on a date with somebody and then they're just like trash? Like, I mean, okay, the raft one, that's a hard one to beat, but like
Yeah.
I what about has
Yeah.
anyone lied to you about it? Because I feel like that's
Um,
a thing that I just recently kind of like explored. And like I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
you're still hella cute and I still want to hang out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have never had somebody lie to me about drinking. Um, but I have had somebody like lie to me about like drugs. And I was like, hard pass. But I went out on a date with them, and I mean, they were just smoking, and that's fine. I have no problem with smoking. Like, cool, great, no problems there. But when you're not like you are smoking so much that you are just like I've been on a date before where like I was like we met at a restaurant and just sat down, and he just pure munchies, just all over the table, just wants like all the food. And I was like, oh God, you did not tell me, you told me you were sober from alcohol, but you did not tell me this other thing. Um, and so that was hard for me because I was like, I can't do it. This is sad. As much as I support it, this is just sad.
It's an
And
excess that
yes,
overtook him.
absolutely. You're abusing it. And I think that's the most unattractive thing to me is the abuse of your body
Well, and
with
somebody
anything.
getting out of control, I think
Yes,
is a big
absolutely.
one for you.
Absolutely.
Um, you don't like being around out of control.
No, no, not at all. I never have, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just who I am. But
And
what about
I'm
you?
the same way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's why we connect so well. Um, what about you? Like somebody lied to you about alcohol, they lied to you about being sober. How did that go? And how did that make you feel?
I didn't call them out on it,
Yeah.
right? Um, I like for why,
Mhm.
right? Like you've already chosen your path, right? Like I'm not going to change, and I don't want somebody to change to be with me.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Alcoholics lie. Just like drug addicts do. I mean, people can
Yeah.
lie in general. I don't think it's limited to that, but like when somebody loves their substance, um, and they're not truthful about it, like that's something that's really deep, right? Um,
Mhm.
I would say like there's really not words for it, right? Um, and I think more closely than somebody like I'm dating, there's just a friend in my life who has really been struggling with their drinking for a long time. And, uh, you know, I'm sober, but yet you're shaking, right? Like
Mhm.
the shakes go away if you haven't been drinking for weeks, like you say, right? You wouldn't still have the shakes. Um, you know, but that's them arguing for their weaknesses and defending it and uh,
Mhm.
justifying it, right? At the core, I heard somebody say something that I really liked. Alcohol's not the problem,
Mhm.
it's the symptom, and I think not everybody that drinks has a problem with alcohol, but I do think that when people have a problem with alcohol, it's not just the alcohol, right? There's something,
Mhm.
there's an escape, there's a, excuse me, band-aid.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm still exploring what that is for me, right? Like clearly, maybe by standard definitions, I'm not an alcoholic, but I was definitely medicating my life with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it was actually making a lot of the things that I think I liked drinking for worse. So
Yeah.
um, sleep has always been hard for me. Alcohol
Mhm.
does not help that. It makes it so much worse, especially
Yeah.
as you get older. Um, Anxiety.
Mhm.
Alcohol does not help anxiety. It, like billionifies it, right? Because
Mhm.
add in like the fact that you're like poisoning your body, so your nervous system is like, fuck, right? And like
Mhm.
that's a feeling that like there's not like a thought even associated to it. It's your body having a reaction, your nervous system. And then like depression, right? Like
Mhm.
I would say, I talked about this in my, see, first episode of season 2, there was a long point of time in my life where I didn't want to be alone. And I don't mean like I had to have a boyfriend or I didn't want to be alone. Like I had roommates, sometimes lots of roommates, because that energy of trying to fill space by myself was really hard. And I do
Right.
think a big part of that was alcohol, right? Like there was so much of my energy just being taken away through really binge drinking, that I didn't want to be alone. I wanted another energy in the house, right? Like a dog wasn't enough, right? Like, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for a lot of years I didn't even have a dog. Um, and that's definitely something that's changed too. Wow, I
Yeah.
don't even know what we started talking about. Like I just kind of like
Yeah. No, that was great. I loved what I got from all of that you shared, and I loved every moment. But one of the things that kind of popped up for me was how when somebody loves alcohol more than they love something else, it's really hard to love them. And it's really hard when to watch them love alcohol more than they love themselves. Um, and that I think that's the
Yes.
hardest thing is when they love a substance more than they love themselves. It's really hard um, to know that they're going to love you, and to question if they're going to love you as much as they love that substance because they don't love themselves first.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's what makes dating so hard too when you're drinking is when you're dating somebody who loves that substance more than they love themselves or anything else, it makes it so hard to even have a conversation, a relationship, anything, or even connect. Like you can't connect as deeply as you could and as you want to be connected to your partner because they're not sober. Um,
But babe, you nailed it. Like
yeah.
if you can't love yourself, how can you love me?
Mm-hmm,
Right?
exactly.
Like this isn't you and I have loved each other through not loving ourselves because we're family,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody coming to me in a partnership, you gotta love yourself big time because I fucking love me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I will
Yeah.
fight for me. I have fought for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why I can't, like drinking's a deal breaker, right?
Yeah.
Even somebody who like I love my cannabis and I indulge in a lot of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's been medicinal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if I was with somebody who was like every time they were around, they're like just dying, like yo, gotta get it. Oh my God, like just
Yeah.
like this. I
Addiction, pure addiction.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was that was big, babe. That was like
Good. I'm glad we can say something like that.
yeah, wow. But yeah, self-love. I
Mm-hmm.
think not drinking has been the biggest act of self-love that I have ever
Mm-hmm.
done, and it has. Like I shared, it has affected compassion, or not compassion, companionship more
Mm-hmm.
than any other area through being able to carry out acts of self-love unabashedly. Like
Yeah.
my house is a nice sanctuary. I do not let people drinking into my home. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know that was a thing until somebody wanted to hang out and they'd been drinking. And I was like, no, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sorry. Like,
Not at
I
all.
think I
Yeah.
probably said sorry in the moment, but I'm not sorry. Like, my home is sacred to me, my
Mm-hmm.
energy, my space. Like, yes, I trust the golden light will protect me. And also, it's my job, right, to have
Mm-hmm.
those boundaries. Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
the only thing that really sucks about doing this podcast with you, I want to hug you.
Right? Yes, I'm not a hugger, but I want to hug you.
Me-
I know. I feel like we would just hug it out and cry a little bit. And then we get back to the conversation. That'd be so, yeah, it's so hard.
You're
Yeah.
indirectly responsible for me starting the podcast.
Oh, whatever.
Well, and not even indirectly. You're very responsible for me starting the podcast. So, I mean, you introduced me to get Mary.
Keisha.
Keisha,
Keisha.
empower her. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And like through listening to Keisha talk about all this stuff, I was like, I could do a podcast, right? And you
Yeah.
were like, you should totally do a podcast. And like the next thing you know, I did a podcast. And I'll never forget, we went to the Empower Her, the last in-person thing that they did, right? And I remember learning there the statistics about podcasts and learning that like because I had so many episodes and had been on air so long and was consistent, like I was already in like the top like 12% of podcasts. And I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And all of that is because of like you guiding me to these things.
Oh,
So
good. I thought it was so inspirational when we were there for that event that you were like, yeah, I'm gonna go find somebody and we're gonna do a podcast. And you found somebody and you did a podcast with it and it was amazing. It was so great. And I was just like, man, you have so much more energy than I do because I was tapped. I was done. I had to go back to the hotel and sleep because I was out. I was peopled out. I get peopled out really fast. That's another thing too. Is when I'm sober and not drinking, I get peopled out a lot faster.
right.
Yes, and that was in the beginning, more in the beginning of my sober journey, where I was just like, this is too much. This is overwhelming. I get overwhelmed really fast. And I forgot that I got overwhelmed really fast because alcohol was the crutch. And so anyways, I had to go back to the hotel room and sleep, but I just loved how you were just like, yeah, podcast right now, let's do it. And like just having the best time. And I was like not about it, but I was so happy for you and so inspired by that because I was like, wow, like if this was dance right now, if I could do something with dancing, I guarantee you I would do it. But podcast is not my thing. But it's so awesome that she found that. So yeah, I love that. And I love this journey that you're on and the whole podcast thing. And yes, love it.
You're such a big part of it. You always have been. And like you connect me to my youth in a different way, right? Like I'll never forget you saying something. You said something to me, maybe you'll remember better than I did, about like, Auntie, you know how you were always telling me like when I'm older I'm gonna think this, and I was like, nah. And now I'm older and I do think it, and I'm talking to this younger girl and I'm telling her the same thing and she's not listening. And I was like, yeah, like
yeah, yep. You just want to shake her, just be like, listen.
yeah, but like to be making, so when I was your age I did do a year without alcohol, not a drop. And it was kind of a social experiment because and tell me if this is the case for you, like especially being a teenager, especially in my 20s, like drinking was just so prevalent, so cool. It was very much like on TV, right? Like it's what the cool kids were doing, right?
Yeah.
And I see that in a lot of like young adult TV and shows. I'm like, wow, they're like glorifying like drinking.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's a lot.
Yeah, I remember, oh my gosh, that brought up something that I completely forgot about. My first drink, my family, some of my family could not go a holiday, like holidays without drinking. And so I grew up thinking drinking was this special thing. And but I really didn't see my family other than like holidays and stuff like that. So my only perspective and my only observation of them was that drinking was this like grand thing and it was so amazing. And you got to do it when you're older. And my first drink, I think I was 9 like very young, 9. And one of my family members gave me a drink. And I remember like they were like, "What do you like? What juice do you like?" And I was like, "I like mango juice." And they're like, "Okay." And so they gave me like a little mixed drink with mango, like vodka and mango juice, and that was my first drink, like at a family event. But I thought I was the coolest shit in the block. I was Jenny from the block, and I was amazing, and you couldn't talk me down. Um,
Do
and
you
so
remember it intoxicating you at all?
yeah, I remember throwing up, and I think that was I think I like blacked out because I don't remember anything. I remember having that drink, and I remember waking up in my in a bed that wasn't mine. But that's the first thing that my first drinking experience. But then as I got older, I didn't really drink much after that. But then like starting to get into my teen years, my parents were very like, yeah, if you want to drink, like this is a safe place for you to drink, and like please don't be a drunk dumbass and never drive. If you could always call me. And I had that relationship with my parent and my dad, more honestly, where if I felt like I was ever in a drinking situation, and I was out of control, which never happened, but if I was out of control, I knew I could always call my dad, and I had that trust that I could always call my dad or you, or somebody. I always had somebody in my life that that I knew if it ever got out of hand that I could call. Um, but I think because my parents were so open with the fact that I could drink, I just I kind of put the alcohol off of the pedestal
Hmm.
because it was something that I could have and I had the opportunity to have. Um, but they really put the ball in my court of like, if you want to drink, go for it. If you don't want to drink, go for it. But
It
here,
doesn't sound like they it wasn't that they were condoning it. It's like they sounded
no.
very realistic. Like look, if people are gonna do it, and if you're gonna do it, don't be a dumbass.
Exactly, exactly. But I remember having this Jack Daniels bottle in like I had this nightstand sort of bookshelf sort of a deal. Um and I remember having the Jack Daniels bottle like right on top. And I was 16, 17. And it was just like decoration in my room and it was never really touched. You too? Yeah. It was never
Okay.
touched. It was full. And it maybe had like 2 or 3 drinks in it. And I'm pretty sure like one of my family members and I like drank it together. And that was the most amount of alcohol like I ever had out of that bottle. Pretty sure I dumped that bottle down the drink, but or down the drain. But um I just like alcohol was so glorified and like oh like you're only cool if you drink and but I just had that perspective that like actually alcohol's not that cool. But it was cool to everyone else. And I think that's why I had it in my bedroom. Is when friends would come over, they would see that and they'd be like, oh, she's cool. Because it wasn't ever like me thinking like, alcohol was this like grand thing because I've never been a fan of it. And I think because of my like experiences growing up as a kid, being around alcohol and being allowed to drink but not really wanting to drink or whatnot, or um, my parents being so open and honest about everything with alcohol that it kind of led me to take my own path, and my own path was um, not drinking. So um,
Well, you mentioned like, you always knew you could call your dad, you could call me, right? Like, and that will never stop being true, by the way. Uh,
yeah.
but I remember you actually being the one that your friends would call you,
Yeah, yeah, and
and
my
you were more like the like taking care of them because you didn't want them hurting themselves and doing stupid shit.
yeah, yeah. I'm always referred to as the mom in my friend group, even though I'm actually conveniently not the mom at all in my friend group, which is hilarious. But um, I'm like one of the only people in my friend groups that's not a mom, but I'm okay with that. But I'm the mom if any of my friends need me, I'm there. I'm the mama bear, and I'm gonna make sure you get home safe. So there's been plenty of times where I've driven 2 hours away and picked somebody up and um, taken them home and made sure that they were fine and great, and helped them get a little sober. Um, but yeah, it's never really been my thing, but it's definitely been on a pedestal before in my life. Um,
Well,
so
it's associated with rich people and power
yeah,
and celebrations, right?
right.
Like,
It's a
get a
symbol.
promotion, right? Like there's this, I don't know. I really do think like it's to your point, and it's so good to hear it direct from the horse's mouth. I do think it's shifting, right? Like, because
Hmm.
let's be real, are drunk people cool?
Mm.
Like, have you really hung out with somebody like, man, they're such a cool drunk?
Yeah,
Said no one ever. Like,
yeah. It's just not cute. It's
it's
not
not
cute.
cute.
It's not cute. Yeah. I think my sister, I love my sister, but she would, I imagine her not being a drinker because she's like, ugh, it's just not cute. It's not slay. It's not preppy. Like she uses those words, and I just can imagine her when she's older, just not
Well, that's like that.
drinking.
I mean, I think that there's an awakening happening, right? Like through my
Yeah.
generation, I feel like cigarettes were kind of like the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like people
Hmm.
started figuring out like cigarettes just really aren't that cool. And I think like, you're saying like you guys are drinking less, and like I would love it if your sister never drank. If she was
Yeah.
just always like whatever. And that whole generation, like there's just so much more life. I mean, like they've done studies. It hurts your brain.
Yeah. Yes.
It
Yeah.
causes heart problems. It fucks this up. It fucks that up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, and your brain doesn't stop growing. Your prefrontal cortex does not stop developing until you're 25. So why is the drinking age 21? Like, and that's no fact that's not taught in school. Like, I don't think that the younger generation is dumb in the fact that they don't understand that at all. And I think, um, they're having this epiphany that, oh, alcohol is actually like not cool at all. Like it's not cute. It's not what my sister would say preppy. Like it's not I'm a thing. Um, so I definitely see that as a trend, especially with the kids that I teach. There's no want, like even in my teenagers, like there's not ever talk about alcohol. I think if anything, they're a little more focused and like addicted to the relationships. Um, I think if anything else, just because they like, I don't remember ever like I remember being boy crazy definitely in high school, but I don't remember ever being like boy crazy in like middle school and like elementary school. And I think from a teacher's perspective, we're starting to see that younger and younger of these kids are getting addicted to love and to finding that person much sooner than the older generation has.
It's
And I think the
interesting.
older generation has found that alcohol or that cool thing, and the cool thing now is not the alcohol, it's the love.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's the new currency, right? Social media, right?
Yeah,
Connection.
exactly.
Connection
Hmm.
is the currency, right? Like that's what they're selling us now. That's like, I hate to say it, that's how they're controlling the narrative, right? Like
Hmm.
it's where they're gonna make the money.
Yeah. Well,
It,
if you think about it, like how many commercials do you see? Like, you're not loved if you don't have this. So it's no question why this younger generation is seeking love more than they're seeking alcohol. Like, or like if you don't have a like on Instagram and you don't have 100 likes, then you're not loved. Like, I think they're much more craving love than they are craving alcohol, which is great. I think in some aspects, and in other way it sucks, just like being sober versus Yeah.
they're addicted to the dopamine of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is just another addiction. Right. Yeah.
Another thing. Yes.
But is it less dangerous? I guess is the thing. Right. Like
Yeah.
alcohol, cigarettes, social media. I'm going to bring it full circle. I love the way you started our conversation with you never wanted to be controlled by something outside of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And that's a huge thing for me. And yeah, I never want to put myself in a position where I can't pivot or shift exactly where my feet are in that moment. Um, yeah, and alcohol is something for me that I feel like I can't pivot or shift if I'm drinking. Like you can't. I have never thought about drinking and driving, but like I know that if I'm drinking, like my feet are planted right where they are,
yeah, you're in a
unless I'm
safe spot.
walking.
Yeah.
Unless I'm walking somewhere else. And so that's I think that's how other people feel. I don't know. Is that how you feel? Like I just
Um, like I think about how, I mean, I've known you since you were a baby.
yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe I've seen you actually drunk twice, and
Hmm.
both times were very contained environments
Hmm.
where we were surrounded by people that we knew would love and protect you, right? Like I'm talking about we, but it's, I think you felt safe enough to let your guard down and
Hmm.
abide in it. Um, yeah, I've never seen you so out of control that I was like, Jilly, we got to talk. Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, interesting. Well, this is like been an even like more amazing conversation than I
Yes.
thought it was going to be. Like, I love you
Hmm.
so much, and you're just, you're such a light in my life, and I really love that I can share this with you, right? And
Hmm.
I do think like I've noticed other people in our lives choosing to either drink less or not at all,
Hmm.
watching us, even indirectly, like not realizing it, me, I've been very outspoken about my journey, and there
Hmm.
are family friends of ours that have reached out to me and stopped drinking through
Hmm.
sharing these stories. And so I think sharing the perspective of somebody in your generation is such a gift, and thank you. Thank you so, so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks for joining me today. If you liked this episode, please share it, and you can tag me on Instagram at @UndrunkenPodcast. If you or someone you know has a story to share, hit me up. I'd love that you join me today, and I hope you have an amazing day. I leave you with the wish that you make good choices and take good care of yourself.